Hey everybody, welcome back to art class. For today's art lesson, you are going to need a piece of paper, a pencil, a black crayon, and a ruler. And you might need a pair of scissors as well. So last week we started to learn a little bit about symmetry, and today we're going to start a project where we're going to explore symmetry a little bit more. So the first thing you're going to need is your piece of paper. Now I'm using a regular piece of computer paper, and for this project we're going to need a square piece of paper. So if you have a piece like me that's a rectangle, we're going to make it into a square really quick before we get started. The first thing we need to do is turn our paper the long way side to side like this. I'm going to take the top left corner and fold it all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to line up that edge and then press down across my paper. Now I'm left with a little piece hanging off here, a rectangle on the side, so I'm going to just take my scissors and cut that part off. Then when I open it up, I have a square. Now that we have our square, we're going to fold it just a couple more times. So the first one I'm going to do is fold it from the bottom to the top. I'm going to crease it and then open it back up. The next fold I'm going to do is side to side. After you fold it side to side and crease it, you can open it back up. Now I have a diagonal fold because I had to fold it to cut off my paper, but we're just going to focus on these four main squares that we've created by folding our paper in half a couple of times. So grab your pencil, and what I want you to do is just focus on the top left section. Take a few minutes to draw some line patterns in this section. Now, I'm going to start my patterns from the corner and kind of work up to this outside corner. So I'm going to start at the inside corner and work up to the outside corner. And I'm only going to stay inside of this one square. So I'm just using some lines to create different patterns. You can use whatever kind of lines you want to make whatever kind of patterns you want. I would recommend that you use simple lines. It will probably make it easier for you in the end. Now that we drew our lines with our pencil, we're going to take a black crayon and trace over these lines. Now you want to make sure you push nice and hard when you trace these. Try not to break your crayon, but you definitely need a really dark black line for this next step. A crayon is the only thing that's going to work, so you can't use a colored pencil, can't use a marker. It has to be a black crayon. If you don't have a black crayon, it's okay for you to use any color crayon, but I would like you to try to use a black one if you have it. Awesome. Now that we trace it in a crayon, we are going to do a new method that we haven't done before. We're going to take our paper and fold it in half so that the crayon drawing is on the inside. And you're going to take your ruler and use the edge of your ruler to rub on your paper on top of where you did your crayon drawing. Now if you don't have a ruler, you can use another flat surface, like a card. A credit card or a gift card will work too. You want to hold it still with your hand and then use the ruler to kind of like rub in between. After you rub it pretty good for a minute or so, you're going to open it up and you should see that the design transferred from this side onto this side. Now it doesn't do it perfectly, so you'll need to take your crayon and go back over the new side. But since we transferred our design from one side to the other, we've created a symmetrical design. Remember, symmetrical means that it's the same on both sides. Now that I traced it on the top two, I'm going to fold it in half down to the bottom, making sure my crayon's on the inside. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my ruler and rub all over. Now, if you did it the first time and it didn't work very well, it could mean a couple of things. It could mean you need to push harder with your ruler when you're rubbing it. It could mean you need to push harder with your crayon when tracing it. You also have to be careful not to rip your paper while you're rubbing it with the ruler, so that's why it's good to hold it with your hand and rub it that way. When you open it up, you should see that the design transferred onto the bottom. So I'm going to trace my design on the bottom. Even though it might be a little bit hard to see it, try your best to trace exactly over where it transferred so that we really get good symmetry. If you can't see it well enough to trace it, then trace back over the original one and fold it in half again and rub it with your ruler. Once you've got your whole design traced with a crayon, that's the last step for today. Now this is called radial symmetry. Radial means that it's in the round. So I can see that my design is symmetrical all the way around my paper. When you're all done, make sure you take your picture and upload it to Schoology. Save this paper for a couple of weeks. Next week we're going to do a different lesson, but then in 2 weeks we'll come back and do something else with this. So don't get rid of this, hang on to it, and we'll finish it in a couple of weeks. Have a great day, friends, and I'll see you next time.